Hi friends, it's Mari. I'm back today with another project for honeybee stamps. Today I'm going to be making this sweet little slimline card that you can see here. I'm just showing you the front, and then on the inside there's a cute little pop-out element. I'm going to be taking you through that process today. I'm going to be using the Slimline Sentiments Blankets dies. This is a gorgeous honey cut set that I just really love. I'm going to be using this rectangular slimline piece here. You can see that I've cut a piece of white cardstock using that die, and it just creates this really fun blanket fringe around the edges of this slimline card front piece. Now I'm blending some speckled egg distress oxide ink onto that panel, and I'm just using my honeybee blending brushes here and just a little post-it note to hold my panel down while I'm doing my blending. And I'm working on my waffle flower media mat here just so that it's my cardstock just sticks nicely to that silicone mat as I'm blending away. Now I'm also going to be using some of the dies from the Horizon Slimline Borders dies. These are fantastic for building scenes, and I'm going to be using the clouds, one of the wavy borders, and also the grassy border for my card today. So you can just see all of the different elements that are part of this die set that will make creating a little scene on a slimline card so easy. Now I partially cut that blanket border again on another piece of cardstock, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to cut it again with this cloud die, and in that way I'm going to create the little cloud portion of my scene for the top part of my slimline card. So I'm just going to tape a little bit of purple tape onto that die to keep it in place, run that through my die cutting machine. I'm going to do the exact same thing with another piece of white cardstock with that wavy border, and now those two pieces are going to form the top and bottom of the scene for my slimline card front. I'm going to blend some Distress Oxide inks onto this smaller lower piece here that's got the wavy edge on it. I'm going to use some greens and browns. I want to kind of create a little bit of sort of like a harvest field look to this piece of cardstock, so that this is where a bunch of my different die cut elements are going to go for my little scene that I'm creating here. So just blending on a couple of different greens and this brown here to create this little area. And I am cleaning my brush in between the colors just on some paper towel off to the side here of my workspace. So just going to finish that up, and that's going to be all good to go for my card front. Now I am taking a rectangle die from my stash, and I'm just going to use that to trace. And I'm going to trace a part of this rectangle onto my slimline card base. This is a piece of 7 by 8.5 cardstock scored at 3.5 inches to create my 3.5 by 8.5 card base for my slimline card. And here you can just see I'm tracing around that rectangle shape, which actually is a square because I'm only tracing around about half of it. And I'm going to cut that in two spots here. Just the edges on the sides, and that top line that I traced there is going to be a fold line. So here you can just see I'm showing you where I'm going to cut this. And once I'm done cutting that, I'm going to fold on that other line there that I traced. I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to score it with my bone folder just to get a nice fold on my cardstock here. And my cardstock base that I'm working on here is some heavy cardstock. This is some 110-pound Nina Solar White cardstock that I'm working on here for my base. So there you can see that is going to create that little pop out feature, and I'm going to just bend it into the inside of the card now, and that's just going to create that little pop out element on the inside of my card. So there you can see how that's all going to work nicely. Just again, going to go with my bone folder and just make sure that those folds are nicely folded and everything is good to go. Now I cut another slimline card base from some natural colored cardstock here, just some craft cardstock, and I glued the white card base into the inside of that craft cardstock, And so that now you can see that it just kind of hides the cut line on the outside of that white cardstock and just finishes off the outside edge nicely. And now you can see I just went ahead and adhered my base, my blanket card front base that has the speckled egg blended onto it, onto the front of my card base. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start working on the rest of the details. So I'm going to get my clouds adhered to the top of my card front here. And I just used a little bit of repositionable adhesive there just to get this in place. You could use liquid adhesive if you want, just whatever you have, whatever you like to use. I'm just going to flip that over to the other side and press down on that. Now I'm just going to show you the stamps that I'm going to use for my little images. I'm going to be using this stamp set, which is called Let's Hang Out. It is absolutely adorable, and it does have a companion die set that cuts all of the images in that set. I also am going to be using the Nuts About You stamp set, which is also totally adorable and also has a companion die set with it as well. So I'm going to stamp out a whole bunch of those images with some Memento Tuxedo black ink with my Misty, and I'm going to go ahead and Copic color those off camera, just doing some really simple Copic marker coloring. You can use whatever coloring medium you have. I'm going to just take a little bit of water, spritz that onto my distress ink, and soak that up a little bit with my paper towel. And I'm just in that way creating a little bit of texture on my ink. Just creates a little bit of those water droplets, splotches on that ink, and just makes it look a little bit more interesting and distressed. And now I am ready to go ahead and start sticking down my little elements. And I love all of these little pieces from these two stamp sets. I think they're so adorable. This little pumpkin, so cute. And I have colored it in kind of like some green tones, and you see all of these watercolor pumpkins and different color pumpkins. Now people are actually painting their pumpkins, and just to make the pumpkins look really interesting and decorative. And I just had a lot of fun creating this. I just wanted to create this little scene as though it's just sort of like this little scene out in a field, just really fall and autumn looking. And I love this little scarecrow. I think he's so cute. And the little corn stalk, totally adorable. And I'm just using my Honeybee Stamps liquid adhesive to go ahead and stick all of these different little elements down. And I just had so much fun creating the little scene here with all of the different little pieces. It's fun to color these bits and get them all die cut, and then just use what you have colored up. And I did actually end up coloring lots of extras, so I just saved those, set those aside for another project. And I love having all of those little bits ready to go for another project. It just makes another project come together super fast. Now I am using some foam adhesive on some of the bits that are in the front of the scene, like this little roll of hay here, this little hay bale. And I also wanted to use some of these little crows in my scene as well, and just to balance out the little images here. Now I am going to go ahead and stamp out one of the sentiments from the stamp sets, and I'm just going to stamp this out with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I actually end up going over this with some clear embossing powder and heat embossing it just to give that a little bit more of a dimensional look in that way. So this one says, "Hey friend." And now I'm just going to go ahead and start working on the inside of my card. I took some of the Over the Rainbow pattern paper from the 6x6 Over the Rainbow paper pad. This one just has a really nice grassy look to it. And so I just took some bits that are in the right dimension and size for that little pop out there. And I just ran those through my die cutting machine with that grassy border from the Horizon Slimline Border honey cuts to create that little grassy edge on this inside piece as well. And now I'm just going to go ahead and embellish that little pop out section with some of the other little pieces that I have gone ahead and colored here. So these sweet little squirrels from the Nuts About You stamp set. And again, just some of the other bits and pieces from Nuts About You and Let's Hang Out. Those two stamp sets coordinate perfectly together for creating a little fall scene. And actually, you know what? I was thinking when I was making this, how cute the little Nuts About You set could be for any time of year, actually. And even the Let's Hang Out, lots of the sentiments, not necessarily obviously autumn themed, but definitely work with the autumn theme as well. So pretty versatile and you could use them on many different types of cards. So just really loved how these things coordinate together. I had so much fun coloring them up in the different little color scheme that works with the scene I'm creating here. So there's that over the rainbow paper pad there. You can just see that I have gone ahead and added that grassy strip all the way across there just to create that little base for the inside scene for my card. I did not stamp a sentiment on the inside of my card just because sometimes I like to wait until I'm ready to use the card to put the sentiment on the inside, and that way the card can be for lots of different occasions. And so the sentiments that's on the front of the card that says, "Hey friend," is just really, really versatile and obviously could be for lots of different occasions. So now I'm just taking a bunch of the other different little bits and pieces, the leaves, the apples, the pumpkins, and just going ahead and adding more embellishments here. I'm just adding a little bit of glue dot to the backs of these different little pieces to just give a little bit of dimension to them without having too much dimension on the inside of my card, so that it still lays relatively flat and isn't two dimensional and will be okay when it goes through the mail. And just having so much fun, like I said, adding all of these little bits and pieces to the inside of this card. So I just really loved how this color scheme worked together, and super, super cute. I wanted those pumpkins to kind of look like those watercolor pumpkins. So you can see here, this one is colored with sort of like some blue-green tones. And this next one here just kind of almost looks like a white pumpkin. It's got a little bit of gray ink on it just to give it a little bit of dimension. And I wanted to put that little acorn in here as well, just to finish off the little embellishments. And I am going to have a few pieces left over here for another card, like I said earlier. So I am ready to start to add some details here with some different mediums. So I wanted to add some sparkle and shine with some Wink of Stella. So I'm going to add that to a bunch of the different areas on the two little scarecrows that are part of my card on the inside and outside. I'm going to add that Wink of Stella to the crows, and just here and there and everywhere on the card to add that little bit of extra sparkle and shine to the card. So you'll just see me finishing up with that. And it doesn't really show up that well on camera, but if you've ever used Wink of Stella before, you know that it does just add a really nice touch of subtle glitter to your project without being too glittery and in your face. So I always find it's a really perfect touch of shine. I also wanted to add a little bit of Nouveau Glaze to add some dimension to some of my bits on my card front and on the inside of my card as well. So you can just see it's on the center of that flower and on this, the one little apple that's on there. I also wanted to add some gold stickles on here as well, just to add a few little gold accents that I thought would just catch the light nicely when the recipient of the card is looking at this card. And I just thought that was kind of a little bit fun and unexpected in that way as well. And so you're just going to see me adding a little bit of this gold stickle here and there, some to the corn stalk, because at this point the corn stalk didn't have a whole lot of dimension to it, and a little bit to that little green pumpkin. And I think that was almost all that I maybe added for little details. Now I am going to, of course, go also in with a little bit of the white gel pen and add some highlights here and there. I also wanted to add some polka dots to this little scarecrow's shirt, and I added some little lines of highlight to a bunch of different areas on my card as well, on the outside and on the inside. So here you can see the card is all dry. I wanted to show you the details now that everything is dry and finished, and I just love how this turns out. I think the little pop-out section on the inside of the card is so fun, and I think the recipient of this card will really love that. And it is kind of something that you don't really necessarily expect when you open up a card and you get that little extra dimension and detail. Thank you so much for watching today. I had so much fun. I will be sure to leave a link in the description box below to all of the different products that I used from the shop today. And be sure to check out the shop over at Honeybee Stamps, and make sure you check out Honeybee and all of the social media platforms on Instagram. Check out the blog, check out the Facebook group. Have an amazing day, everyone. I hope to see you again here on Honeybee Stamps. Bye-bye.